Long before Zeus ruled Olympus or Thor raised his hammer, African gods clashed in a battle so brutal the earth still remembers. This isn't mythology. It's a divine war erased from history. And once you hear what happened, you'll never see the gods the same way again. In Western imagination, African spirituality is often romanticized as harmonious, a spiritual ecosystem of balance, ancestors, nature, and peace. But that image, while beautiful, is incomplete. Because where there is power, there is ego. Where there are gods, there is tension. And where cosmic order is threatened, conflict is inevitable. African deities, just like their Greek or Norse counterparts, clashed, not out of whim or chaos, but out of necessity. Their battles shaped the elements, redirected destinies, and mirrored the deepest truths of the human condition. This isn't just mythology, it's cosmology, it's philosophy, it's the spiritual blueprint of what happens when divine principles collide. Shango, the thunder god of justice, once waged a war of pride and fury against Ogun, the iron-forging god of civilization. Oya, goddess of storms and death, shattered fate itself to follow her own path. Eshu, the trickster, never chose a side, but made sure there was always something to fight about. These aren't bedtime stories. These are the myths that explain why the wind changes, why lightning strikes, why nations rise and fall. In their struggle, the gods didn't just battle each other. They carved the laws of balance into the universe. This is the war between the gods. A story of passion, betrayal, prophecy, and power. A divine clash where chaos isn't the enemy, it's the catalyst. And through their struggles, we begin to understand our own. Because if even the gods must fight to keep the world in balance, what does that say about us? In African cosmology, the universe is not ruled by a singular god dictating order from above. Instead, it is maintained by a delicate, ever-moving balance between opposing forces: spirit and matter, life and death, water and fire, chaos and order. The gods themselves are not simply creators or caretakers. They are elements. They are concepts made flesh, and they carry within them both divine wisdom and divine pride. In many African traditions, gods do not represent perfection. They represent reality, flawed, fiery, and full of consequence. This is where the tension begins. Unlike the neat, linear pantheons presented in some Western mythology, African deities exist in constant negotiation. They don't just act, they react, they disagree, they rival, and in their clashes they reveal one of the most profound truths of these cosmologies. Balance is not born from peace. It is born from pressure, from friction, from the ongoing struggle between forces that are both necessary and dangerous. Where Western myth often emphasizes victory, African mythology teaches that harmony requires conflict, that the storm must come before the soil is made fertile again. The Orishas of the Yoruba pantheon are perfect examples of this. Shango is thunder, passion, explosive power. Ogun is metal, fire, discipline, the grind of civilization. Obatala is calm wisdom, the patience of sculptors and peacemakers. Eshu is unpredictability, the trickster, the turning point. None of them can rule alone. Each needs the others to contain or complete them. But that doesn't mean they agree. Far from it. Their stories are full of tension, betrayal, and divine egos clashing like elements in a storm. In these tales, gods argue over leadership. They compete for worship, challenge one another's authority, and sometimes sabotage each other's plans. But these aren't childish quarrels. They are mirrors of natural law. Fire will always test water. The wind will always scatter earth. Order in these systems is not something imposed. It is something fought for continuously in both the heavens and the human world. These conflicts are not threats to balance. They are balance. Because without the testing of limits, nothing holds. This concept is echoed across African spiritual systems. In the fun tradition of Dahomey, the universe is wrapped around a giant serpent, Dan Ayido Hwedo, who coils to maintain stability. But even Dan must battle the chaos that rises from time to time. In Congo cosmology, the line between life and death, between creation and destruction, is constantly negotiated by spirits on both sides. The gods do not eliminate chaos, they manage it. They confront it, dance with it, sometimes fall into it. And through that, the world continues. What makes these stories powerful is their honesty. They do not promise a universe free of struggle. They promise a universe where struggle is sacred, where even the divine must be challenged, and where righteousness does not mean the absence of conflict. It means the ability to stand through it, to fight for balance even when the odds are divine. So when African gods go to war, they are not destroying the world, they are shaping it. They are hammering it into form like Ogun shaping iron. They are cracking it open like Shango splitting the sky with lightning. They are testing each other's strength, not to annihilate, but to affirm what must stand. Because in a world so full of extremes, only those who survive the storm can be trusted to rule what comes after. In this tension, we find the heart of African spiritual thought. Order is not static. It is dynamic. It must be protected. It must be challenged. And sometimes even the gods must bleed to make the world whole. In the pantheon of Yoruba spirituality, few rivalries carry the thunderous weight of Shango versus Ogun. It is more than a mythic feud. It is the clash of principles, the battle between raw, explosive power and quiet, relentless discipline. These two orishas stand at opposite ends of a divine spectrum. One rules with lightning, charisma, and fiery presence. The other forges with silence, labor, and iron will. Their war was not just between gods. It was a war between ways of being. Shango, the Orisha of thunder, fire, drumming, and justice, is a force impossible to ignore. He arrives like a storm, loud, proud, undeniable. His followers see him as the embodiment of leadership, of kingly authority, of divine judgment that strikes fast and hard. He is the god of charisma and courage, of passion that burns with purpose. When he enters a ritual, the air tightens, the drums quicken, and all eyes are drawn to him. He is a god who commands. Ogun, on the other hand, is the god of iron, technology, labor, and war. But his war is not like Shango's. Ogun's strength is forged in solitude. He lives in the forest, works without applause, and crafts the tools that build the cities and destroy enemies. He is the first blacksmith, the opener of paths, the one whose machete carved roads before any other Orisha could walk them. His power is in what he builds and in the silence of his rage. Unlike Shango's thunder, Ogun's anger is quiet, cold, and final. The tension between them was inevitable. Shango rose quickly to power, crowned as king, worshipped with songs and dance. But many believed that Ogun, who had labored in blood and steel to clear the way for civilization, was overlooked. While Shango lit up the sky, Ogun was still hammering in the dark. Their conflict ignited not just from ego, but from ideology. Shango demanded loyalty. Ogun demanded respect. Shango brought judgment. Ogun brought the tools that made judgment possible. Who truly led? The one who ruled or the one who built? Their rivalry extended beyond power and into the realm of love. In some versions of the myth, both Orishas loved the same woman, Oya, the goddess of storms, death, and change. She was fierce, unpredictable, and wild, a storm in her own right. Ogun loved her with the patience of a builder. Shango loved her with the fire of lightning. She chose Shango, drawn to his brilliance and fury, leaving Ogun wounded and enraged. This betrayal deepened the divide, making the battle not just about kingdom or principle, but about heartbreak. When the gods clashed, the earth shook. It wasn't a battle of fists, but of essence. Shango hurled fire and thunder. Ogun answered with blades that could cut spirit as well as flesh. Their war tore through realms, divine, earthly, and ancestral. It is said that when thunder cracks and metal rings in the same moment, the two are still fighting. They are reminders that the struggle between vision and labor, glory and grit, is eternal. But the myth does not end in annihilation. In many retellings, the gods do not destroy each other. They learn to coexist. Their followers honor both, calling on Ogun for strength and craftsmanship, on Shango for justice and fire. Together they form a necessary tension, because without Ogun's path, Shango's lightning would have no place to land. And without Shango's fire, Ogun's iron would remain cold and forgotten. Their story is not just a divine drama, it is a mirror. It reflects the tension between action and contemplation, between leadership and sacrifice, between fame and the quiet work that makes greatness possible. In every society, there are Shangos, loud, bold, demanding change. And there are Oguns, silent, powerful, building the world that sustains us all. Sometimes they fight, sometimes they bleed, but always both are needed. This war at its core is about what kind of power truly shapes the world. Is it the kind that burns bright and commands a room? Or the kind that sharpens tools in silence, shaping futures from steel? In the Yoruba cosmos, the answer is not one or the other. It is both. Because from their battle, a truth emerges. Fire alone cannot build, and iron alone cannot lead. The world must be forged and then ruled. Only when fire and iron meet does the divine forge spark. In the beginning, there was Eshu, messenger of the gods, keeper of the crossroads, and divine trickster who never picks a side but always changes the outcome. Eshu is not the loudest deity nor the most powerful, but no divine war begins or ends without his touch. He moves through stories like wind through leaves, sometimes gentle, sometimes violent, but always shifting the shape of things. While Shango roars and Ogun strikes, Eshu smiles, whispers, and tilts the scales. He is the one the gods fear, not because he is stronger, but because he is unpredictable. Eshu is the force of disruption, the spark that lights fire under silence, the laughter that follows prophecy. His role is not to bring chaos for its own sake, but to ensure that no path is ever fixed, no ego ever safe, and no power ever absolute. In Yoruba cosmology, Eshu stands at the intersection of all choices. He governs communication, especially between the Orishas and humans, and even between the gods themselves. Without Eshu, prayers cannot be delivered, offerings cannot be received. His presence is mandatory in every ritual, because without him, nothing moves. And yet, he is the god who causes everything to move in unexpected ways. One of Eshu's most famous stories explains why perception is never the full truth. In the tale, he wears a hat split down the middle, black on one side, red on the other, and walks between two friends. After he passes, they argue fiercely about what color his hat was, each swearing by what they saw. Eshu returns laughing, revealing both sides. The lesson: truth is perspective, and conflict often grows from partial vision. Eshu teaches not by instruction, but by confusion. His trickery isn't mindless. It is meant to provoke thought, to expose arrogance, and to force wisdom through discomfort. When the gods clash, Eshu is rarely far. He feeds their rivalries, stirs their emotions, and sometimes deliberately misguides their messengers. He once played a crucial role in the escalating feud between Shango and Ogun, delivering distorted messages between them to test their egos and accelerate the conflict. He did not do it out of malice. He did it to expose what lay beneath their power. The pride, the insecurity, the divine flaws that, if unchecked, could rot the heavens from the inside. Eshu's interference forced truth into the open. This is the paradox of Eshu. He causes confusion to create clarity. His disruptions are a divine necessity. In African cosmology, he embodies the idea the balance is not static. It must be shaken. Growth never happens in comfort. It comes when we are pushed, tricked, cornered, and then forced to see what we truly are. That's why Eshu is both feared and venerated. To call on him is to invite change. And change, no matter how divine, is always dangerous. Eshu does not respect titles or hierarchy. He will test a god the same way he tests a human. If a deity grows too proud, too comfortable, too righteous, Eshu will humble them. He might trip them with a word, redirect their messenger, or create a situation where their own assumptions destroy them. But from that fall comes wisdom. From that confusion, new order. In this way, Eshu is the god of necessary disruption, the guardian of cosmic evolution. And yet, Eshu is not only chaos, he is also the protector of choice. He reminds us that every path we walk was chosen, and every choice bears consequence. In African traditions, he is often depicted standing at the crossroads, a place where all decisions converge. When a person faces a moral dilemma, a spiritual turning point, they pray to Eshu for guidance, not for the easy path, but for the right one. Because Eshu doesn't remove obstacles, he teaches through them. His power is subtle but omnipresent. While Shango's lightning demands attention and Ogun's iron builds kingdoms, Eshu's influence is quieter, more elusive. But without it, the gods would freeze in their roles. Power would calcify. Stories would lose motion. He is the necessary disorder that makes divine order possible. Eshu's trickery has often been demonized, especially during colonial encounters that feared his ambiguity. To those who wanted fixed hierarchies and obedient gods, Eshu was dangerous. And he is. But that danger is sacred, because in a world where even gods can stagnate, someone must keep the universe honest. So when the gods go to war, don't just watch the thunder and flame. Look for the shadow at the edge, the smile in the silence, the whisper that turns a battle into a lesson. That's Eshu. Never still, never simple, and always one step ahead. Oya is the storm you never see coming, the gust of wind that changes everything, the howl that precedes a revolution. In the Yoruba pantheon, she holds dominion over the winds of sudden change, the gates of the cemetery, the mysteries of death, and the birth of transformation. Her presence does not comfort, it awakens. When she arrives, nothing stays the same. Her power is not just in motion, it is in disruption. She is the goddess who challenges destiny, who looks fate in the eye and says, "Not today." Oya is not merely an orisha of weather. She governs transitions, the endings that lead to beginnings, the decay that makes space for life. In her breath is the dust of empires crumbling. In her hands, the keys to the realm of the dead. She stands at the threshold where souls pass, where memories linger, where truth cannot hide. Yet she is also fierce life. Market women call her name for wealth and energy, warriors for courage, mothers for protection. She is death, yes, but she is also the wind that clears the path. In many stories, Oya does not wait to be chosen, she chooses. Her union with Shango is among the most storied and volatile in the pantheon. They are a divine couple made of fire and storm, thunder and wind. But Oya is not a consort who submits. She is a goddess who challenges. Their relationship was passionate but often contentious. In several myths, she defies Shango's commands, not because she disrespects him, but because she serves a greater law, the law of necessary change. Where Shango sees justice as flame, Oya sees it as a wind that topples all who resist transformation, including the ones she loves. There are tales where Oya walks away from Shango, refusing to follow him into wars she sees as ego-driven. In others, she intervenes against his wrath to protect the innocent. She does not bow, she commands. She rides into battle not behind, but beside. And if her visions contradict the path laid before her, she will break the path, because Oya is not bound by fate. She rewrites it. She tears it apart like roofs ripped from homes in a hurricane. And from that destruction, she makes way for something new. Oya's gift of prophecy is central to her mythos. She sees what others fear to look at: death, endings, inevitable change. But her foresight is not passive. She does not merely witness the future, she acts upon it. When she sees ruin ahead, she becomes the wind that forces people to turn back. When stagnation threatens, she becomes the storm that forces movement. Her prophecies are not gentle whispers. They are commands from a force that knows that what grows stagnant must be swept away. This divine defiance places Oya in direct contrast to the idea of fixed destiny. In some traditions, fate is written by the gods, but in Oya's case, even the gods fear her power to rewrite the script. She doesn't follow prophecy. She tests it, challenges it, bends it toward freedom. She represents the sacred right to revolt, not just against systems, but against time itself. Oya is the rebellion encoded in nature, the cyclone that answers silence with upheaval. And her feminine power is radical. She does not seduce with softness. She does not beg for recognition. She arrives with authority, crowned in lightning, cloaked in the swirling winds of transformation. While many traditions cast women as caretakers of order, Oya is the divine mother of disruption. She is the matron of upheaval, of the necessary pain that births truth. Her strength is in her refusal to remain still, her unwillingness to accept a role that does not honor her vision. In ceremonies, when Oya possesses a devotee, the air shifts. Her energy is unmistakable. Dancing that becomes a storm, voice that becomes command. Her followers wear red and purple, colors of fire and royalty. They channel her with machetes in hand, sweeping the air, cutting through illusion. And always when she is present, something must change, something must fall, something must begin again. Oya teaches that nothing is forever. Not love, not power, not even divine authority. She is a reminder that transformation is painful but sacred. That prophecy is not a prison. That fate is not final. She is the storm that saves you by destroying everything false. In a world obsessed with control, Oya is the chaos that liberates. In a pantheon where even gods fall to pride, she is the one who answers to no one but truth. Her battles are not for dominance. They are for evolution. And when she moves, the world moves with her, or it is left behind. Not all divine battles explode with thunder and fire. Some are quiet wars, clashes of principle, tension between creation and destruction, between stillness and motion, between law and instinct. One of the most profound, yet often overlooked conflicts in African mythology is a subtle but symbolic tension between Obatala and Ogun. Obatala, the Orisha of purity, wisdom, and creation, is the sculptor of human form, the calm father of civilization. Ogun, the god of iron, war, and technology, is the violent burst of progress, the fire that breaks the forest to build roads. Their conflict is not loud, but it is constant. a battle for how the world should be shaped. Obatala believes in peace and careful creation, in order built through patience and grace. He moves slowly but deliberately, a god of contemplation and restraint. His world is carved from white chalk and soft hands. Ogun, in contrast, blazes ahead with tools and weaponry. He carves paths through resistance, believes in strength, speed, and force. In myth, Ogun clears the way with machete and sweat, while Obatala refines what remains. But in their partnership lies the tension. Obatala's calm disapproves of Ogun's rage. Ogun's drive grows frustrated with Obatala's pace. Their divine disagreement asks a universal question. Should progress be measured by how much we create or how much we destroy to make room for it? In the fond tradition of present-day Benin, another divine struggle plays out between Dan Ayedo-Huedo, the cosmic rainbow serpent, and the serpents of chaos. Dan coils beneath the earth, keeping it steady, balanced, and nourished. Its form is a bridge between realms, a sacred loop that prevents the world from collapsing into itself. But chaos is never far. Trickster serpents and dark forces challenge Dan's balance, trying to uncoil what holds creation together. In these myths, Dan is not a god of violence but of cosmic endurance. It must continuously fight to keep harmony intact, reminding us that balance is not a state, it is a struggle. This war beneath the surface between Dan and the disruptors is symbolic of the unseen battles that take place within spirit and nature. The Fawn people understood that even peace is maintained through effort, that the rainbow, though beautiful, is also armor. And every time the earth shakes or misfortune rises, it is said that Dan is tightening its grip, fending off the serpents who wish to return the world to disorder. This cosmic war is quiet but eternal, a divine labor of protection. Further south and west in the kingdoms of the Congo, Dahomey and Ashanti, the stories of godly clashes become deeply intertwined with human history. In Congo cosmology, divine beings known as Bakulu, ancestral spirits, often clash over the moral direction of the living. These spirits, though venerated, are not always united. One may demand vengeance, another peace. One may call for sacrifice, another for mercy. The living, caught in between, must navigate these spiritual tensions, often with diviners acting as mediators. In this sense, the gods don't only clash in myth, they argue through people, through dreams, through crisis. In Dahomey, stories abound of gods who fought not for dominance but for the soul of their people. When foreign forces threatened the kingdom, deities were said to have argued among themselves. Should the people hide or resist? Should they call down storms or strengthen walls? The goddess Nanebuluku, mother of all, sometimes stood against her own children when they sought blood instead of wisdom. These internal divine conflicts reflected the moral dilemmas faced by the kingdom itself and served as a cosmic mirror to political decisions on the ground. Among the Ashanti, the legendary golden stool, believed to house the soul of the nation, was often the object of divine tension. Ancestral spirits clashed over its possession, guidance, and legitimacy. There are tales of rival spirits attempting to influence the Asantehene, the king, with conflicting visions. In times of turmoil, priests and priestesses would be consulted not just to find answers, but to resolve disagreements between gods. The stool, though physical, became a battlefield for invisible forces vying for control of destiny. These intertribal myths tell us something crucial. Divine wars are not isolated. They ripple across boundaries, crossing rivers and languages. The gods do not live in separate worlds. They interact, clash, and sometimes bleed into one another's realms. A storm in Nigeria may echo a serpent's struggle in Benin. A whisper in Congo might stir the winds of Dahomey. African cosmology is not fragmented. It is a tapestry of divine tension and interconnected battle. In every one of these stories, the message is clear. Even gods must struggle. Harmony is not the absence of conflict. It is the result of battles fought and wisdom earned. Whether it is Obatala's silence resisting Ogun's fire, or Danayido Huedo bracing against chaos, or ancestral spirits debating over a kingdom's soul, divine conflict is never meaningless. It shapes the world, teaches the people, and reveals that even the most powerful forces are tested. The gods clash, not to destroy, but to decide what must be preserved. And in that storm of decisions, our destinies are forged. What happens when gods fight? The sky splits. The rivers turn against the land. Fire visits places it was never meant to reach. These are not just the poetic exaggerations of ancient stories. They are warnings. In many African cosmologies, the consequences of divine conflict are not confined to myth. When gods clash, the earth responds. Floods rise where there should be harvests. Droughts stretch across once fertile land. Madness enters the minds of kings and commoners alike. Harmony, once held by a delicate thread of divine balance, begins to unravel, thread by thread, soul by soul. But these stories were never meant to simply inspire fear. They carry deep moral weight. They remind us that even the divine are bound by responsibility. Power without humility leads to destruction. Justice without patience becomes tyranny. When orishas lose control, when ancestral spirits let their egos speak louder than their wisdom, the world pays the price. And if the gods must answer for their choices, then so must we. Human behavior is often modeled after the gods, intentionally or not. Their virtues are mirrored in our aspirations, their failures in our flaws. These divine words are not just stories of what happened in the heavens. They are blueprints for understanding our own conflicts. Every argument that spirals out of pride, every war waged for ego instead of justice, echoes these ancient divine dramas. The message is clear. Conflict may be inevitable, but what we do with it, how we move through it, defines who we are. So when we ask what happens when gods fight, the answer is not just chaos, it is correction. The world bends, it breaks, but then it teaches. And what remains after the storm is often closer to truth than what stood before. The war between the gods is not just a tale of ancient thunder and fire, it is a mirror, a reflection of the struggles we carry within us and between us. Every divine clash in these stories, Shango against Ogun, Oya defying fate, Eshu stirring storms, is a dramatization of what it means to be human. Power versus principle, discipline versus desire, order tested by chaos. In the mythic world, these are not just gods at war, they are pieces of ourselves. Across cultures, conflict is often seen as something to be avoided, a flaw in the system. But African cosmology doesn't see it that way. It sees tension as necessary. Chaos is not the opposite of creation. It is its partner. Order is not the absence of movement. It is what emerges from struggle. The gods fight not to destroy the world, but to shape it, to test its limits, to push it forward. And in doing so, they offer us a path forward too. In your own life, you felt the pull between peace and pride, between structure and spontaneity, between who you were and who you're becoming. The gods show us that these battles are not signs of failure. They are sacred. They are part of the rhythm that all things move in. Whether in relationships, in nations, or within the self, conflict is how we refine truth. Just like the gods, we must learn when to yield and when to roar. So I offer you a prayer. May you have Shango's fire when truth must be spoken, Ogun's endurance when paths must be cleared, Oya's courage to change even when fate says no, Eshu's wisdom to question what seems certain, and Obatala's peace when the storm has passed. Reflect on what you've heard. Which God story echoes your own? Which battle have you seen in your life, your family, your history? Speak on it in the comments. Share this story with someone whose soul is at war and needs to know they are not alone. Subscribe if these gods awakened something in you. Like this video not for visibility, but as an offering. Thank you for walking through this divine fire with us. Thank you for your presence, your time, and your spirit. The gods are still speaking. And now, you are listening.